I'm not sure how I'm supposed to start the video, other than that I gotta say, 2023 has been a really amazing year for gaming in general. This year, I don't know what it is, but it feels like every developer and publisher has decided that why not release some of the best games that we can make this year, in a year when so many other developers are doing the exact same thing. Why not bring back long-running franchises and make them even better? And not only that, games are pulling up some massive sales numbers as well, because man, it's not just the quality of the games this year, it's the quantity of really good games that are being released as well. I mean, just think about it. This year we've gotten a brand new Zelda game, a remake of Resident Evil 4, Baldur's Gate 3, Street Fighter 6, and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, just to name a few, and that's not even including the games that are still yet to be released, with Starfield, Lies of P, Cyberpunk 27 DLC in September, before we get to October, which has me completely bewildered. October might actually be the single best month in gaming. I mean, it's guaranteed to be the best one this whole year, but ever, period. As a massive Sonic fan, I'm worried about the new Sonic game, Sonic Superstar, which is dropping in the middle of October because there are so many games releasing at the start of the month and right after it. Assassin's Creed Mirage, a return to form for the long-running series, drops early October, followed by Lords of the Fallen, which seems to be a really well-made Souls-like, and October 20th, with Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Wonder dropping on the same day. Madness. And Alan Wake 2, one of my most anticipated horror games, rounding out the month, and it even delayed its release by 10 days just so people can buy and play the other games releasing before it. And it's not just the quantity of releases that's overwhelming, it's the sheer quality that is behind each release. The first big game of the year that I bought was Dead Space Remake. This game, boy, let me tell you, has some of the best sound design out of any game I've played. The creaks as you tread through the desolate Ishimura, not knowing what big bad could be behind any given corner or door, kept me on my toes. Its gameplay loop too, having to dismember the necromorphs limb by limb, conserving your ammo as well as possible in order to stand a fighting chance, is just an amazing game design from the original way back then, just made even better now in the remake. And still on the horror train, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Although in hindsight now and having played a lot of it, has dropped a place or two in my favorite Resident Evil games list, but it's still a spectacular remake. From its improved story, better and fun gameplay, and again, amazing sound design like Dead Space. But these two games don't hold a candle to two of my favorite releases of 2023 so far. The first being and the next one being I mean, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is pretty self-explanatory. As a guy who enjoyed Breath of the Wild but wasn't super big fan of it, with an open world that was a bit lacking in my eyes and not so much to do in the world, Tears of the Kingdom fixes all my problems and just adds so much more on top of it. More quests, a way better story, more areas to explore, and the new gimmicks. Crazy how they fit all of that on the Switch. And for Armored Core 6, man, this game might be my favorite From Software game, and I'm not saying that lightly. I'm not saying that it objectively is, but the way I play games and what I like to experience and feel from playing games, this game hits it all. I love its art direction in a hauntingly bleak dystopian future, but one that holds beauty at the same time. Buying new parts for my AC and figuring out what's the best loadout for each given mission, and a story that many seem to criticize, I find to be super intriguing and with meaningful world building. And the music, oh my days. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Soundtrack of the year in my eyes. However, there are still so many games that I haven't even played this year that I really want to, but I don't have the time to. But fortunately, lots of others have been playing these games, and the stats show it. I don't know what it is, but games have been selling like crazy this year. Not just the big games, but smaller and niche ones too. When I saw how much Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had sold last year, I did not expect this sales trend to keep going well into this year. I mean, first up, Hogwarts Legacy. I don't think this game will be getting any Game of the Year nomination at the Game Awards, but its sales have been crazy good. It sold 15 million copies by May, being released in February, and reached 879,000 concurrent players on Steam, making the 8th game with the highest concurrent player count, behind the likes of Elden Ring and Cyberpunk 2077, and ahead of games like Call of Duty and Skyrim. And do you know which game is 9th on this concurrent player count list? Baldur's Gate 3 at 875,000. I had a hunch that this game would be massive, but nowhere near this size. The game still hasn't released on consoles yet, and I can only imagine what type of sales numbers this game will pull in when it eventually happens. And still talking about Steam's concurrent player count, Armored Core 6 peaked at 150,000, making it from Software's second highest count on Steam. But now for the more concrete sales data, let's start with Capcom, cause those fellas have been on a roll for the past couple of years. Resident Evil 4 Remake, 3 million in 2 days, 5 million in July, being released in March. Street Fighter 6, super well received by veterans and newcomers alike, 1 million in 5 days, 2 million by July, being released in June. And for other games as well, there are some massive numbers as well. Both Diablo 4 and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I don't have the statistics on it, have sold more than RE4 Remake this year, which is massive. And then there is the juggernaut Tears of the Kingdom, which sold a massive 10 million in just 3 days upon its release in May. And that's an insane number to pull for a single game console exclusive. And by the end of June, that number reached 18 million, and this number will surely grow to 30 million, I believe. And we still have Starfield, Spider-Man 2, and so many more games that will surely be breaking sales records too when they release. I don't even want to imagine how big Starfield is going to be, but one thing's for sure, and it's gonna be a big one. And talking about games, we've got to mention the consoles too. The Switch has reached a total of 129 million units sold, making the third best selling console of all time, and the PS5 is picking up lots of traction as well too. Sony revealed that they had sold 6.3 million systems in the last quarter of the 2022 fiscal year, which I think goes into 2023 as well, breaking the record for most systems sold in a single quarter ever, bringing the total number of PS5 sold to 41 million. I mean, overall, from both a software and hardware standpoint, gaming isn't slowing down anytime soon. And after all this time, I still haven't talked about the indie games this year, or smaller titles that might have gone under the radar. Sea of Stars, a recent indie RPG inspired by great titles such as Super Mario RPG and Chrono Trigger, is currently holding a 90 on OpenCritic, making it one of the highest rated games of the year, and I cannot wait to play it once I eventually have more time. Dead Cells managed to pull off a DLC collaboration with Castlevania, which has also received outstanding praise as well. Hi-Fi Rush, although not an indie game, it's made by the devs behind The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, also looks super cool. It gave people that Jet Set Radio itch that some had been longing for since the Dreamcast and OG Xbox days. And just a few weeks ago, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, a true spiritual successor to Jet Set, released. There's an indie game for everyone out there. Games that are similar to a genre that you enjoy, or that feel similar to an older game that you might have been wanting to experience once again. One of my biggest highlights this year have to go to Dredge, Omega Strikers, and The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Dredge is this Lovecraftian fishing game where you go out fishing, discovering the mysteries that lie below, and try to piece together the story of the world and its inhabitants. It's visually pleasing and gives a laid-back vibe when you play it, but having enough tension and unease to keep you engaged in its ever-evolving world. The fishing is fun too, having a spin on its different types of minigames, and with an inventory management system like RE4 for your fish, this is a game that you don't want to miss. Omega Strikers I won't go too much into, as it's a MOBA game, and that I don't really like MOBA games, but once you make the mix of air hockey and football, it had me hooked for a while, and it is a game that I enjoyed quite a lot. And lastly, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog was also a fun and short experience. It capped off at 2 hours long, and as a Sonic fan, the writing was filled with passion and art and sprites that were made with care, and had a soundtrack that keeps the trend of amazing Sonic soundtracks going on. And the crazy thing about all this is that the year still isn't done. If I had to predict which games would get nominated for Game of the Year come the Game Awards, I would not be able to come up with a definitive list, or a winner even. In fact, there's still so many games released and upcoming releases that I haven't even mentioned. Pikmin 4, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Mortal Kombat 1, Octopath Traveler 2, and so many more. As a gamer, I'm so happy with all these new releases, because there's so many games that are getting us to try out games that we might never have thought to try. Games like Viewfinder that might get some people to try out puzzle games, or Armored Core 6 being a first mech game for so many people. Overall, gaming is thriving in 2023 so far, and I don't see this momentum leaving any time soon. And a different outro for the video this time, since this is a very different video compared to what I usually make, but it stays the same. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, a like and a comment with your own thoughts on gaming as a whole this year would be very appreciated to read. And if you enjoyed the video as a whole lot more, be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos. If you did not enjoy the video, a dislike helps out a lot in letting me know what I can do to improve. With that said, I really want to keep playing Armored Core 6, so that's about it for me. Have a good rest of your day, night, and week. And with that, Storm out.